Hello, techies. Welcome back to my channel. This is Tony again. Welcome to my channel, Tech with Tony. Today, we're going to discuss about the very important versioning controlling topic. So, during this session, I'm going to use BitBucket as a versioning tool and Git version software for handling this versioning tool. And also, I'll walk you through one of the famous workflow called Git Workflow. So nowadays in any IT industry, they are using Git Workflow. So let's get started without further ado. And welcome back. And if you really like my channel, please subscribe. Stay with me. Yeah, welcome back, everyone. So subversion or source code controlling are both are same. So why we need to control the source code? What is the necessity of source code controlling? And everything we're going to discuss about this tutorial in this tutorial. So this little bit on a theoretical part. So once you understand the theoretical part, then we can jump on to the hands-on with the BitBucket users. Okay. So moving ahead, so I'll discuss about the BitBucket usage along with the Git workflows. So the majorly there are like four types of Git workflows, but I'll be discussing about the Git Flow Git workflows. Okay, so before moving ahead, so let's define the version control. So how do we can define the version control? Version control also called as a source control. So for every IT industry, there would be a source code. It could be in a different language. Could be like Python, in Python language, Java, Angular, Node.js, whatever the language you use, there would be a source code. That source code need to be maintained in a well formatted for the future use, and not only for the users of future and for the tracking purpose, and also if anything happen in the production for the backtrace purpose, you can use the version controlling. So the benefits out of the version control, or else like we call it as a source code management. So the benefit out of the version control is like, if, for example, you assign a task to the developer. So once you assign the task to the developer, so you want to track the daily work of individual. That is very easy in the version control. And not only that, like branching and merging everything, it's easy in the version controlling. And there is a case like you want to have a long term change history for each individual file, not only for the each individual file in the source code, but also like you want to track down the history of source code when it goes the project goes to the long time relation. So that is very easy when you are using this Git source code management. And earlier it was like it is something like source code they manage as with the VCU team, and as later they moved on to the subversion SVN. So in subversion SVN, it is like one way of committing. So when I say one way of committing, it is the commit will happen on the remote repository directly. So the developer who works on the source code, they will directly commit into the remote branch only. But Git sub source code management brought up the something like it's two-way of committing. When I say two-way of committing, it is like so when you do the changes in your local, and you can commit into your local only. Until and it is published, it will not go to the remote repository. So it's some kind of like until unless it's moved on, until unless it is approved by your leads or project manager, that is something it's very useful in the source code management. You can see in the PPT whatever it is there. You can understand that once you read it. I'll give this PPT in my description box. Okay, so let's move on. So for the version control, what exactly we are using? So what software is most famous for the version controlling? So the famous in the version control, it's nowadays is Git is a famous version control. So we can use the Git. So it is very useful. So normally Git we can that's a Git software is an open source software. You can install it in local, and that is very easy. I will show you that when I'm doing some doing video for hands-on. Okay, let's see why Git for source code management. So it's most widely used version control system, of course. And switching from centralized version control system to Git changes the way your development team creates software. So when I call it as a software, it is source code uh, in other term. Okay, so it is very easy for you to manage the software using Git. As I said, it is a open source software. You can install it in your local. So, and also in this tutorial, we will talk about like types of workflows, but I will focus on the Git Flow workflow that is widely used in industry. So I'll only focus on the Git Flow workflow, but I can explain you that like centralized workflow, feature branch workflow, forking workflow are the best. They are not worse than Git Flow workflow. I would not say that, but depends on the situation and project demands. People are very free to choose their workflows. Say, for example, in few projects, they were really want to stick to the subversion controlling. So, if they wanted to stick with the subversion and controlling, they can choose centralized workflow. The centralized workflow will have only one main branch, or they sometimes they call it as a master branch. On top of the main and master branch, there are people who works and they will commit directly to the master and or else main branches. But the advantages in the centralized workflow, though it was working as a subversion, the developer can still commit the code in their local, and then if you want to push to the remote, they need to publish code changes to the centralized repo. That is about the centralized workflow. And the future branch workflow, the people who are working on assigned by the task, the developers will check out the code into future branches. They'll work, then they will try to push into the main branch or a master branch. That's called the featured branch workflow. Git flow workflow, we'll discuss in our next slide, how the Git flow workflow works. And forking flow is something like they will fork that main repo in their individual repo, and then they will work on the forking flow. So every developer will have their own remote repo copied into their their own repo. They can create multiple branches, and they can tag it, and they can work on their multiple branches. Once the work is done, they can always merge the code to the actual repo where the fork has happened, right? So this is all about this types of workflows. So the types of workflows will be picked up by the project demand. So if the project demands these, so you should very choosy how wanted to deal with your software source code. Whether you should go with a centralized workflow. That's a centralized workflow. It's pretty easy and it is quick, faster than all this. But if you have a multiple environments and testing need to be done, and some releases you wanted to trace down, all the things you want to deal with, then the best approach workflow is Git Flow Workflow. So in my next slide, I'm just going to show you that how the Git Flow Workflow works. Hope you guys understood like how the things are working in the in the workflows. So in my next slide, I will explain the Git Flow Workflow, how it is happening, and in my next tutorial, I'll take you to the hands-on, like how we will create a branches, how we follow the Git Flow Workflow, and every thing I will explain you in the next tutorial. Okay. So here it is like a Git flow workflow diagram. And Git flow workflow, like how it is like, you could see master, hotfix branch, release, develop, and future branches. So how exactly it happens is like the source code will be always set in the master. So the people who want to start the software, newly software project, so assume that they start with the master. Then what they need to do is like they really need to check out this master source code to develop branch. So from the developed where the actual project development will start, right? So I'm repeating. So master would be there. Always the production ready code would be there, the master. Then whoever need to start the work, they need to check out the branch, develop branch from the master. Then let's assume that there was a task. There is a task has sent to the developer. So how he need to start? Actually, he need to start by checking out from the develop to the with the future branches. Okay, so what he need to do is it after we check out the master to develop, then so develop to feature. So anyone wanted to start kickstart the work or anything. So any task is assigned to the developer or whoever working on that. They need to check out the code from the develop branch. Okay, so so we call these branches as a future branches. So like you see from the develop to the future branch, right? So let's say that you there is a change request or there is a bug fix came and they wanted to fix you or they want to do the changes. So you check out the branch from the future, then the workflow starts from the future. Then after you complete, then you will push those changes to the develop only. So there is no direct access to the master to the developers from future. He can only push the changes to the develop. I mean, he will publish those changes to the develop branch only. So here I would recommend not directly developer can push the develop branch from his future. There's supposed to be some constraint like only the leads or the architects need to have access to merge the code from future to develop. So in order to merge this code from feature to develop, so developers need to raise a PR request on top of his feature to develop branch. Then the PR is accepted and reviews are happen. Then the his feature branch code need to be merged into develop branch. After that, so any testing is happening, you can do it in the develop branch level itself or UIT. So you can deploy it in any on-premises or cloud services. So testing is supposed to happen on top of develop branch code only. Okay, so once the QA signed off and it is ready to release, so what exactly we need to do? If you want to track the releases, like release 1, release 2, something like that. So better you need to create a release branches and depends on the develop branch piece of code, right? So whenever you are publishing the changes which has happened, so from develop, we need to create a release branch. From the release branch, if still you wanted to do some, pre-prod testing or any testing you wanted to do it, on top of release branch you can do. And if you want to keep this release branch for the tracking purpose, you can keep it. Otherwise, you can always once it's merged to master, you can delete the branch of release. But most of the industries will keep the track of release. Once the release is published to production, then what you need to do lately, you need to sync the code with the master. So from release, it's supposed to push it to the master level. Okay. So if you see from starting from the master to develop, then what is happening after task is assigned to the developer, then develop to feature branch. So the developer will work on the feature branch, the workflow goes on. Then after that feature 2, it is publishing to the develop branch. Okay, so the push request should happen from his feature branch to develop. Then after that, what we're going to do, like after for the production deployment, from the develop to you can create releases branch for the individual cycles. So all the releases will be created. Releases can you can maintain in the release branches. This is about one of the flow, one of the positive flow. If you see from release, uh, from till the release, we'll have all our releases, how many cycles are happening, release cycles are happening. You can track down in the release branches. Once it is releases happen, then you should sync up with the master branch. That is what this flow tells us about. So this is one of the positive flow. Let's see that once you have pushed the code to the production, and there is a production ready code at the master node level, there are some defects are came. Okay, there are the chances like defects comes, right. So you never know what is happening in the production level. So it was very urgent that need to be fixed and pushed to the production immediately. So there comes the hard fix. So it is very much needed. So from the master, so the release flow and all it is different. But from the master, you want to push the code immediately to the master. So immediately, so the changes which should not go to three, from develop feature something like that. It's not a cycle release; it's immediate release. So if you want to release it immediately, then what you need to do, you check out the hotfix branch from the master, then do the changes, test it on UIT or whatever the hotfix code is there. You should push it to the UIT or whatever. QA should sign up. Then you can push the directly to the. You should sync the code directly with the master by getting approvals from the leads and all. You see this? This is the hotfix branch, and it is not that much urgent, and you wanted to follow the entire flow, so you wanted to push that defect to the next level of to the next level, next cycle. Then you can follow the flow which we did earlier, like from release then master, something like that, right? From develop future release. Okay, thanks guys, and thanks for watching my video. So uh, if you really like, please like and subscribe, and please, for the earlier notification, click the bell icon. And in my next tutorial, I'm going to explain you about how we need to install the Git software in our local system. It could be a Mac OS system or a Windows system, and then I will try to give you a few commands to make you familiar with the Git commands. Then I will take you to the BitBucket, how we can access the BitBucket and how we can follow this Git flow, how it works and all. I'll explain you. So it's more over like a hands-on experience. We can look into the next video. Okay. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks a lot. See you in the next tutorial. Take care. Bye.